The single biggest reason millions of people still refuse to buy an electric car comes down to one simple, frustrating word: waiting. At a gas station, you pull in, fill up in about 5 minutes, and drive away. At most electric car chargers, you wait 30 minutes, an hour, sometimes longer, standing around in a parking lot watching a number crawl upward. That gap, that maddening wait, is the last great wall standing between the electric car and everyone who has refused to buy one. It is the gas engine's final advantage. And in the year 2025, 2 Chinese companies did not just chip away at that wall, they knocked it flat. They unveiled batteries that pour hundreds of miles of driving range into a car in about 5 minutes, just as fast as filling a tank of gasoline. And this is not some distant laboratory promise. These are real batteries, in real cars, that real journalists have plugged in, charged in 5 minutes, and driven away. Tonight I am going to show you how China shattered the last barrier holding electric cars back, how they pulled off something that was supposed to be years away, and the one very real catch that comes with it. A catch that is not at all the one you are expecting, because the battery is not the problem anymore. Let me start with why charging was ever slow in the first place, because for years it felt like an unbreakable law. Think of a battery like a sponge, and charging it like pouring water in. If you pour gently, the sponge soaks it up neatly. But if you try to blast a whole bucket in all at once, water goes everywhere, the sponge cannot keep up, and you make a mess. A battery is the same, only the mess is far more dangerous. Push energy into a battery too fast, and it heats up, and heat is a battery's mortal enemy. Too much of it and the battery ages prematurely, loses its life, or in the worst case catches fire. So for years, engineers deliberately kept charging speeds gentle, holding back the flow to protect the battery and the people near it. That safety limit was the real reason you waited half an hour or more. It was not that we could not push energy faster, it was that pushing it faster tended to wreck the battery. That was the wall, and China just found a way over it. Here is what BYD, the giant Chinese car and battery maker, revealed. They call it a flash charging platform, and the numbers are almost hard to believe. It runs at a full 1 megawatt of power. Let me put that in human terms. 1 megawatt is roughly the amount of electricity that a small building full of homes draws all at once, and BYD is pushing all of it into a single car. At that rate, the car gains about 2 kilometers of range every single second. Watch a clock tick, and with every tick, the car can drive another 2 kilometers farther. In 5 minutes, that adds up to around 400 kilometers of range, roughly 250 miles, poured into the battery in the time it takes to buy a coffee. The first cars built to carry it, a sleek sedan and a large sport utility vehicle, can take their battery from nearly empty up to most of the way full in about 6 minutes, and all the way to the very top in around 20. And BYD was not even the end of the story. Its great rival, another Chinese company and the largest battery maker in the entire world, hit back weeks later with a battery of its own that could add even more, around 520 kilometers, more than 300 miles, in that same 5 minutes. 2 Chinese giants, trading blows, each one racing past the point that was supposed to be impossible. If you want to watch the walls that hold back the future get knocked down one by one, then subscribe to Sinova, because tracking these breakthroughs the moment they arrive, and telling you honestly what they mean, is exactly what this channel is for. Now let me show you how on earth they actually did this. Because remember, the enemy was always heat. Charge too fast and the battery cooks itself. So the Chinese engineers went to war against heat itself. They redesigned the very insides of the battery to let the energy flow through with far less friction, cutting the battery's internal resistance by roughly half. Picture widening and smoothing every tiny channel inside the battery so the charged particles can rush from one side to the other freely, like replacing a clogged, narrow pipe with a wide-open one. When the energy meets less resistance on its way in, it generates far less heat, and suddenly you can pour it in at a furious rate without the battery overheating. They engineered new forms of the materials inside, new kinds of the graphite and the fluid that carry the charge, all aimed at one goal: letting energy flood in fast while keeping the battery cool and safe. It is not magic, It is the result of a decade of relentless, patient battery engineering, the kind of deep, grinding technical work that China now leads the world in. And the battery was only one piece of it, because pushing that much power demanded rebuilding the whole car around it. To handle a full megawatt without everything melting, BYD doubled the voltage its car runs on to 1,000 volts, so it could move the energy with less strain. It built the car around a new kind of ultra-efficient power chip, made of a tough material called silicon carbide, that can survive those brutal electrical loads. It even paired the platform with an electric motor that spins at an astonishing 30,000 times a minute. In other words, this was not a single clever battery bolted into an old car. It was an entire vehicle re-engineered from the ground up, just to survive being charged that fast. That is systems engineering at a level very few companies on Earth can match. And that leads to the bigger point, the one you cannot miss. On batteries, China does not just have a lead, it owns the entire board. The two companies at the center of this story are the two largest electric vehicle battery makers on the planet, and they are both Chinese. Between just the two of them, they make something close to half of all the electric car batteries in the entire world. Think about how staggering that is. China makes the batteries. China makes the cars those batteries go into. And now China is racing to build the chargers that fill them. No other country on Earth controls that entire chain, from the raw battery cell all the way to the car in the driveway, the way China now does. So when a leap like this happens, it does not happen in isolation. It happens inside an empire that can take a breakthrough and pour it into millions of real vehicles faster than anyone else alive. And that rival battery, the even faster one, is not a fragile show pony either. Its makers say it keeps working in the bitter cold, still charging most of the way full in about 15 minutes, even at 10 degrees below freezing, the kind of weather that normally cripples a battery. And rather than living in a single flagship car, it is being designed into dozens upon dozens of different models all at once. This is the difference that scale makes. A Western breakthrough often means one expensive halo car. A Chinese breakthrough means the technology quietly flooding into an entire market, cheap car and premium car alike, in a single year. Now here is the re-hook, and the honest catch I promised you, because there absolutely is one, and you deserve to understand it clearly. But pay attention, because the catch is not what you think. The catch is not that the battery is fake, or that the 5-minute charge is a lie. It is real. Journalists have stood there and watched it happen. The catch is something else entirely. To charge a car that fast, you need a charger that can deliver that monstrous 1 megawatt of power, and those chargers are extremely rare, because they are extraordinarily demanding to build. Remember, a single one of these chargers pulls as much electricity as a small neighborhood of homes. You cannot simply bolt 100 of them onto an ordinary street. The local power grid, the wires and transformers that carry electricity to that spot, often cannot handle that kind of sudden, enormous draw without being seriously upgraded first. So the bottleneck did not vanish. It moved. It moved out of the battery, which is finally ready to drink energy this fast, and into the charging station and the electrical grid standing behind it, which mostly are not ready to pour it. The car got thirsty enough. The world's plumbing has to catch up. But here is the part that should really make you sit up, because China is attacking that problem too, in the way only China does. BYD announced it would build thousands upon thousands of these ultra-powerful flash charging stations right across China, spending to lay down the very infrastructure that the rest of the world lacks. And the rival battery, the even faster one, is being designed into dozens and dozens of different car models. And it has a clever trick for the grid problem too. Instead of demanding that the local wires suddenly deliver a full megawatt on command, these advanced stations can keep their own giant battery quietly sitting on site, slowly sipping power from the grid all day long and storing it up. Then, when a car pulls in, the station dumps that stored energy into the car in one enormous fast burst, far quicker than the thin grid connection alone ever could. It is like filling a bucket slowly from a trickling tap so you can splash it all out in an instant. Paired with special liquid-cooled charging cables that can carry these huge currents without overheating, it is a way to leap over the weak grid rather than waiting years to rebuild it. In other words, China is not just inventing the miracle battery and leaving it stranded with nowhere to plug in. It is simultaneously building the entire national network of superchargers to make that battery actually usable, at a scale and a speed no other country is even attempting. That is the whole Chinese playbook in a single story. Invent the breakthrough and build the entire world around it to make it real, both at once. And let me stay honest with you all the way to the end, because the details matter. Those dazzling headline numbers are peak figures, measured under favorable conditions. The 5-minute charge usually fills the battery most of the way, not from bone empty to completely full. And the range numbers come from an optimistic testing method, so your real-world 5 minutes might give you somewhat less than the poster claims. There is also a fair question about how a battery holds up after years of this punishing fast charging, and the honest answer is that the makers say their heat-taming design is built to protect its lifespan, but the real long-term proof will only come with time and millions of miles on real roads. And for now, almost all of this is happening inside China, on Chinese cars, at Chinese charging stations. The rest of the world will have to wait for the cars, and much longer for the chargers. So this is not a magic wand that instantly ends slow charging everywhere on Earth tomorrow. But make no mistake about what it proves. The core problem, the battery that could not safely drink energy fast enough, has been solved, and it was solved in China first. And to see just how far ahead that is, look at where the rest of the industry stands. Many of the fast chargers the Western world is proud of today top out at a few hundred kilowatts, and plenty of celebrated electric cars cannot even accept that much. China has just leapt to a full megawatt, several times faster, and built the cars to match. This is not China nudging ahead by a nose. It is China opening a wide gap in the one measure that ordinary buyers care about most: the simple question of how long you have to stand around before you can drive away. And in that race, for now, it is not even close. So the next time someone tells you that electric cars will always be chained to that long, boring wait at the charger, you can tell them that the wait is already dying, and that it died first in China. The last great advantage the gasoline engine had, the simple speed of filling up and going, is being erased by Chinese batteries, in Chinese cars, at Chinese charging stations. The only thing standing between us and a world where charging a car is as fast as fueling one is the network of chargers and the power grids to feed them, and China is already busy building exactly that, while much of the rest of the world is still debating whether it can be done at all. If you want to keep watching China knock down the walls that everyone else thought were permanent, then subscribe to Sonova, and the next time someone says electric cars just are not ready yet, ask them if they have seen what happens when you plug one in for 5 minutes in China, because the wait they are worried about has, quietly, on the other side of the world, already come to an end.